Welcome to the Built Body Podcast. I'm your host, Alan, as most of you guys probably know, and I wanted to start off this brand new podcast to really build up the Built Body's name. And really what I wanted to get into on this very first episode is what you can really expect from following along in the podcast. And I've been on Instagram for several years, and I've posted a lot of video stuff, but unfortunately, the way that the algorithm works and how Instagram works in general is that I'm not able to express myself in how I really want to talk sometimes. Sometimes I have to shorten it, make it look cute and all that stuff. So this podcast is really going to be a no bullshit type of podcast where we go over in-depth topics, expectations, things that are going to really set you up long-term for your fitness journey, because I'm one of those people that believe that if you have your fitness in check, a lot of other things in your life can fall in place. Okay. And I've seen many people experience success at the highest level, but not have their health in check. And I think 2020, the year where COVID happened, was a very big wake-up call for a lot of people. And not many people understand how important your health is until it's really put to the test. And that's why my mission is to transform 100,000 men over the course of my career in order to make fitness a lifestyle instead of a crash course. And that's the main mission behind my brand and really what it stands for. So who is this podcast for? It's for guys who have already, you've already wasted your time with quick fixes. Okay. You've already wasted your time trying different things out. And now you're just ready for the real hard shit. Okay, because really where looking for a quick fix sources from is trying to get somewhere quick. You're trying to shortcut something, you are trying to get there quicker, and you're also just trying to avoid the work. And I did this for the longest time, so I know exactly what that feeling is like. The feeling of always wondering, there's something else out there that I haven't tried. I need to just try this next thing and this next thing and this next thing. And a couple years go by and you realize that you've made absolutely no progress. That's who this podcast is for. The people who are now ready to come to terms with the fact that this change that you're trying to look for in your body, whether it's to really shred off that fat and build muscle overall, that is ultimately going to come at doing the hard things more often and then sacrificing temporary pleasure for the long-term game. Now, I'm not one of those coaches nor people who preach being super restrictive or living the Tupperware container bullshit lifestyle. I'm definitely not about that. But I am about balance. And true balance is when you actually work for it and then you give yourself some balance as a reward. Okay. And really, that's who this podcast is for. The people who are looking to really find the answers that will truly help them in their fitness journey and create long-lasting progress. And the people that this is not for is the people looking for quick fix things, okay? If you are listening to this podcast right now hoping to lose 20 pounds in 4 weeks, that is not what you're going to fucking do here. Absolutely. Okay. I'm here to give it to you very raw and uncut and be truthful always. That's why I'm starting this platform, because I can be a lot more truthful on here and really authentic and speak in depth on a lot of different topics out there that I can't do other places online because of the listening time and all that. So this is not for people looking for quick results. This is not for people who are looking to let their excuses get the better of them. This is for men who really want to, you want to look at yourself in the mirror one day and say, damn, I'm really proud of the man that I've become. I'm really proud of the person that I've built. And I'm really proud of the actions that I've committed to over these past several years. And that's where you draw your confidence from, because lack of confidence is one of the biggest things that just makes you feel like shit all the time. Okay. And confidence, all it is just keeping promises to yourself. Okay. If you have no reason to have confidence and you have no reason to trust yourself as a person because you don't have the credibility with yourself, that's a really depressing way to live, in my personal opinion. And I want to give men the tools and resources and the information necessary to start keeping promises to themselves. Because if you don't keep promises to yourself, you're unreliable to yourself. And that doesn't deliver any type of confidence. Okay. Confidence really is, just to put it plainly, is that you've done the things that you say that you can do, right? So if I say I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, you have the actions over the course of the last several years or many years to back that up, so you know who you are in terms of your identity. And lack of confidence is someone who says they're going to do something but has no evidence to back up whether they're actually going or able to do that thing, okay? Now, what I want you guys to look forward to is I'm going to have a lot of guests on here in the future to talk about their specific journeys with weight loss in other sports as well. I'm not really one of those people that just wants to focus on bodybuilding because I think it's a pretty sad, pathetic sport overall, in my personal opinion. And I've tried it. I think that the people who have a lot of passion for it is great. However, for the mass majority of people, I don't think it's a healthy way of approaching fat loss and weight loss in general, because it can become very obsessive and obviously go down different rabbit holes in terms of drugs and whatnot. So I'm not too keen on that, but I do want to listen to different people's perspectives on how they approach fitness, because I'm in my 10th year of my fitness journey, and my perspective about fitness from year 1 to year 10 is night and fucking day. Okay. I thought I always had to do things a specific way. Now I have a much different approach as to how I keep myself in shape. And that's ultimately what I want to bring to you, because I am in a position right now where I have access and I'm friends with people from all different types of lifestyles, fitness modalities. And that's what I want to bring to the table to you, because you might not have access to those people like I do. Now, I want to also make sure that we go over specific lessons with key takeaways at the end of episodes. So that way you can expect to always listen to this podcast and understand, what can I do today to change my life and move it forward. Then I'm also going to do client interviews on their journey to build their body, because I think it's also very, very, very important to capture people throughout the process, not just at the end, okay? Because sometimes, at the end, it just seems like, you're not really there for the ride. However, I think it would be very important to capture a lot of clients that I've personally worked with myself, and see their journey as it's kind of moving forward, as they have a little bit of wins, some traction. And I would love to have my clients on this podcast too. So that way you can just hear their side of things on how they're transitioning from a lifestyle that was maybe not as healthy and where they wanted to lose 20 pounds to actually accomplishing that goal, and understanding how their mindset's starting to change, because ultimately that's going to be one of the biggest hurdles that anyone faces with their fitness journey is their mindset. Okay. Now, before we go on to all the good stuff, I want to share more about my journey, because sometimes people believe that, I've had it all figured out, and it really couldn't be further from the truth. And my journey started back in 7th and 8th grade with my mom. Okay. I started out doing cycling classes with my mom to try and get rid of my chunky baby weight, okay, or baby fat phase. And I was the type of kid that went in the pool with the shirt on. I was not confident at all. And it wasn't until I found weightlifting to where my confidence got a little bit higher, okay? And weightlifting for me was one of those things where it just basically gave me an out. And what I love about weightlifting is that you have the ability to change your physical appearance, okay? And genetically, there is a lot of other things that you cannot change, like your height and everything like that. But it's one of those things where you can, go into the gym, you work, and then you can expect a result as long as you are in compliance with yourself and you have very good, consistency. Okay. Now, I lifted for about 1 to 4 years, doing pretty much everything incorrect, I would say. I tried a bunch of different metrics. I tried a bunch of different strategies. I've tried a lot of different things, and I never really got help. Okay. This was just trial and error, going down the YouTube rabbit hole, going down Google rabbit hole, going through all those different rabbit holes. And I just found myself lost at the end of those 4 years. So as I went into my very first year of college, I started to get a little bit more knowledgeable and started looking at certification programs, different things like that, to allow myself to be educated with how I approach my training and nutrition. Okay. And that's really where the love for building muscle and dropping body fat kind of started. Okay. But over the course of those next couple of years, as I built the brand that I have and my business, I kind of fell out of love with weightlifting and everything like that. So once I got down to Texas, I moved from Pennsylvania to Texas. I started to think about, okay, what can I do to really challenge myself? I'm just going to do a bodybuilding show. And I had never necessarily thought about doing a bodybuilding show because I was not one of those kids that grew up wanting eyes on them. Okay, I always was a follower. I never, ever, ever wanted people to look at me because I had a pretty unique structure, I would say. I was big up top, and then I had big legs, but I was a skater, so I wore skinny jeans and baggy, like a baggy like sweatshirt. So it was a weird look for a kid. Like I would compare it to like I don't even know what I would compare it to, but it was just not a great look, and I was always pretty embarrassed. And it wasn't until like I gave myself a way out of that till my confidence started to really come up, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping men do the same thing. Anyways, now we're in Texas, and it's February and then I commit to a bodybuilding show the same year as COVID happens. Now, I was basically committed to this show 100%. I did not miss one fucking day for 8 months straight. And my prep was only supposed to be about 5 months long, but since COVID happened, we had to move the show back. So I was just still dieting for another 3 months. Now, when I did my first show, it was one of the most grueling and demanding things that I've ever done because there was never an off switch. And I learned a lot during that time about myself and about the sport of bodybuilding. So I have some perspective on that front. And I did the show fully natural. So I did not take any PEDs, steroids, anything like that. The craziest thing I took was just creatine monohydrate, some pre-workout here and there. And then towards the end, I pretty much leaned off of all that stuff anyways. And as a result of that, my test crashed, my sex drive went through the floor. I was not even I was barely able to be sexually active at that time. And at the end of that, I won the show, which is crazy because it was Christian Guzman's Summer Shredding 2020, the Summer Shredding Classic. And I won first place in the classic physique division, which I am very proud about, but it brought in a lot of negative emotions after the fact. Okay. Because I had won this show, I got the Alphalete sponsorship, and I haven't really shared this with anyone. So this is the first time I'm kind of sharing it out there in public, but basically, I got this opportunity of a lifetime. I've always wanted to be an Alphalete athlete, and I got it. And, when I was finished that bodybuilding show, I had a lot of struggles with binging, and I had a lot of struggles with just being able to not think about food all the time. And I was so food focused at the end of that bodybuilding show that it made me never want to do anything like that ever again. And I always warn people when they want to go that route because you become very obsessive about how you're looking. And if it's not a certain scale weight, if it's not a certain, if it's not a certain scale weight, if it's not a certain look, a certain level of body fat, you get super discouraged and you think that you're overweight or you're fat, but you're literally in the top 1% of 1% in the world in terms of how you look. So it's just crazy how your expectations can totally change and you can perceive yourself a certain way when objectively you're not that person, right? So I ended up getting that sponsorship and I was doing the photo shoots and all that. And I basically ended up losing it. And the reason why, I'm not exactly sure if it was a problem with the brand or them just not wanting to work with me anymore or whatever. Communication was a little bit spotty. So I had asked for packages and whatnot because I used to receive them and then I just didn't one day. And I'm not really sure what happened, but what I correlated that to was how I was basically losing my physique over a period of time. And I would be so hard on myself during the day with aggressive cardio sessions, aggressively cutting calories. And then at night, when I was by myself in my apartment just here in Texas, I would really have a hard time staying away from food. And I had all this kinds of stuff in my pantry after a show, which is definitely a big no-no. And that really started to affect my relationship with how I worked out, my relationship with food, my relationship with just being hungry and satisfying my hunger. And these are things that I'm still working through today. I can honestly say right now that I'm not, going through any type of binging or anything like that. But I tell you guys that story because I know it kind of, some people may not understand why I would like to share that story because they may think it sounds weak or maybe might make me lose credibility as a coach or whatever. But I know so many coaches who struggle with this and they never talk about it. And these are things that everyday people struggle with, and you deserve to hear someone who actually does this for a living struggle with the same thing that you might be struggling with, okay? The body image issues, the falling off and getting back on, all that stuff is very normal for even fitness professionals to deal with. What happens is that a lot of fitness professionals like to just, scoot that under the rug and pretend like it's not an actual thing. And I want to start this podcast off with a story like this, even though I've never shared with it before. I've never admitted to anyone that I've or only a select few people. I've never really admitted that I had binging problems or I wouldn't say, I would say it was more like just comparing my body to all these other people online. And, as I get older and older, I just learn more and more and more about how so many people struggle with the same thing. So I wanted to start off this podcast by just giving you guys a very real and raw look at my fitness journey as a whole. And it's been 3 years since I've competed, and I'm in a much better spot. I have a very good grip on my fitness journey, and I really like how my progress is going right now. And I just figured that I'd share that with you guys because I want you guys to understand kind of where I'm coming from and the perspective that I have on my own fitness journey. But right now I'm currently training for a half Ironman. And this kind of brings me to my next point and something that I want you to ask yourself. And that is, what are you going to do this year that's going to really push you beyond what you think you're capable of doing? And I'll give credit where it's due. I watch a lot of Nick Bare stuff from Bare Performance Nutrition, and just to see how the people he interviews, how he conducts himself as a business owner as well as a man. I needed something in my life that was really going to push me to that next limit. And the reason why I say that I needed it is because I remember what it was like preparing for that bodybuilding show and really having something that I was working towards. And it made me feel like I had a very good sense of direction and purpose. And it keeps you very grounded and disciplined to a routine. And that routine allows me to conduct everything else inside of my routine, in order. And the reason why I think that's very important for any man nowadays to commit to is because there's so many distractions out there. Think about how many things distract you on a daily basis. Your phone, it could be porn, it could be different things like relationships, girls, that could take you away from your life's main purpose, okay? And whatever that purpose is, I don't know. Your business is your own business. However, I can tell you straight up, and you know this too, that if you are distracted from that purpose for long enough periods of time, you're just going to end up not accomplishing really much at all. And we can all agree on that. And I've been there too. I'm not perfect. I still deal with distractions and temptations every single fucking day. But when I commit myself to a goal and I commit myself to becoming this different person, I'm able to really just narrow down my focus much more. And I know what's important and what's not, because I can look at it objectively rather than just saying, oh, I'm just going to do it all. I'm just going to basically, waste my time here, waste my time there. It doesn't really matter. And you kind of just tiptoe throughout life with no trajectory. And I think that ties into fitness directly, because once we have this routine down, we are much better off to stay disciplined and accountable with ourselves. So I'm going to leave that first episode there. I wanted to give you guys some background on me. And if you have any questions for me, you can feel free to message me on Instagram at Alan, ALAN, _ my last name, JARAMILLO. And I'd love to, have open dialogue with you guys and also have you ask any questions that I can answer right on here. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the very first episode of the Built Bodies podcast. And I'm your host, Alan, signing off. Peace.